as the Penguins beat Indiana State 21-14. As always, please follow us on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast. We are on YouTube Live. You can chat with us. Please give us a 5-star review. We're everywhere podcasts are available. We are recording a day earlier. I apologize. As most of you regular listeners know, I am in Tampa, Florida. I have a hurricane coming at us tomorrow just to show our commitment. We are here live. I have my Tampa hat on, and as Cyril pointed out, it is upside down as a potential metaphor for how the city is going to look at this time tomorrow night. Wish us the best of luck, of course. With us, as always, is former defensive lineman Kyle Storr, former defensive lineman Kyle Storr, former football coach of operations Dan Kopp, and Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Hess. And we have special co-host with us, Chris Elkins. Now, before I stutter anymore, let me flip it over to Kyle Storr.
Thanks, Sal. You little nervous for the storm tomorrow or what?
Kinda.
Yeah. No, understandable. But once again, the show is brought to you by Leiden Oil Company, my employer, another leading supporter for the Penguins on and off the field in the Mahoning Valley. Paul Leiden, Laura Leiden, Jen Leiden, and Paul Leiden Jr. Doing what they can and fueling the best for success.
Thank you, Kyle. And I believe I'm going to flip it over to Kurt Hess, who has breaking news to report.
Yeah, well, boys, we don't have many Instagram comments from this week, but we do have a special announcement coming from the Youngstown State University Athletic Department. We are thrilled and honored to announce this live on the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. And the real reason why we have our special guest here tonight, not only is this person a close friend of the show, but arguably one of the greatest offensive linemen in YSU history, as well as the history of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, All-American and newest member of the Youngstown State University Hall of Fame, Chris Elkins.
Ivy, all right.
Let's go, brother.
Congrats, Elk.
Wasn't expecting that.
Congrats, Ivy.
Thank you.
Man of many words, folks.
What are your thoughts, Elks? What are your thoughts around the room?
It's funny. I was thinking, once I got this itinerary, I was kind of thinking, I wish I would have turned this one down because I don't like talking about myself that much. But here we are.
Now, Chris, your Hall of Fame speech has got to be longer than that right there. So you got to give us a little bit more than that.
I do have the betting under on your runtime for your speech, just so you know.
How much time do I have to write it?
You got to about February, probably. And I have to say, ChatGPT and AI right now is your best friend. So throw that thing in there, man. It'll work.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I could do a little introduction if you want to go right into the interview segment here, Sal.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, you guys all know Elkins. We played with Elkins. Elkins came in 2010, played till 2013. Played as a true freshman late in the season. I think you played like the last 2 or 3 games. I can't remember. I think the last 4 games, South Dakota State, I think was the first one where you really got in. So fitting that it's this week. So Christopher Elkins out of Beaver Falls, PA, played over 40 games in his YSU career. Career grade overall was a 90%, which is extremely high for any offensive lineman, let alone somebody who's playing both center and guard throughout his career. As a senior, 5-time Offensive Lineman of the Week. In 2013, which was his senior year, he played 717 snaps, and he only had 4 missed assignments. So you're talking about an incredible percentage right there of him winning against whatever his assignment was, whoever he was going against. Chances are 99.9% of the time he was going to win. Multiple time all-conference, All-American as a senior, participant in the East-West Shrine Game, which is one of the most prestigious all-star games in all of college football, not just FCS, but a ton of FBS talent there. Jimmy Garoppolo was probably the headliner from your all-star game, unless there was somebody that came out. Nobody came out and probably got a bigger contract than Jimmy. I just don't know if there were any bigger names in that game. And then signed a free agent contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2014, and played under Coach Tomlin, and was blocking against guys like Cam Hayward and a ton of other guys there, and officially earned yourself the nickname of Nug, which maybe you can kind of talk about a little bit later. But just a short synopsis on Elkins, and I think usually Elkins, you kind of just before we get into the interview, talk a little bit about what you've been doing post football and kind of what you're up to now.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Like you guys have already kind of joking around about, I'm not a man of very many words. So this really threw me off and made it a little bit worse. I was prepared a little bit, and now I'm prepared nothing at all. But yeah, since post-college, I worked at really just two main jobs. I worked at Fastenal, got a little bit into project management up until, Sal offered me a position with his company, and I've always wanted to live in Florida. So I took that and moved to Tampa, and then it ended up in Miami a year later. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. If there was another question, I missed it. I apologize.
No, you're good. I think Coach Kopp, you got the first one if you want to go ahead and get to the interview segment.
Yeah. First of all, obviously, congrats, Chris. I gotta say, I never been part of this. I didn't know whether we were like an NFL where we were going to knock on your door and walk with a gold jacket, where it gets real emotional for that. But obviously, it's a big congrats to you. And before my question, I had to break out the Overachievers manual from 2013. Your senior year, and the top word there is be relentless. And I think we got to give Coach Wolford a big shout out. That was one of his biggest beliefs, and everything he signed was be relentless. So and that's exactly, I think we would all agree, how you played, how you carried yourself, and you were just a machine, as Kurt pointed out, to your grades. So maybe just for how does that lesson or that term, be relentless, how's that carried into your life? I always hear the coaches wanting their messages to carry on with their players after football, so I'd be curious how that's kind of applied with you.
Yeah, again, like I said, I was kind of prepared. I remember one of the things Carm said about me, I was almost humble to a fault. So really being relentless and hard effort and working hard, that really never meant anything to me, when I think about it. That's just kind of been ingrained into who I was always growing up. There was never really okay, I got to turn it on. I got to really work hard. I was just always working hard. And I believe, it's led to some certain opportunities with work where, I don't even really know how to explain it, but I'm sure some luck was involved too, but I never really had to ask for an opportunity. I was just always in a position where the opportunity was available to me because of the position I put myself in. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's a great answer. I think all of us can attest to your humility. You like to say you're a man of few words, and I think that just speaks to your character and the fact that you were born relentless. I mean, that's just how you are, and that's why you're a Hall of Famer now. And it's just great to hear you kind of talk about that. So I think, Sal, you up next? Am I reading that right?
Sure. Oh no, I am up next.
Sal,
Chris,
you wrote the script.
Guys, I got a hurricane coming out.
He's upside down. He's upside down there.
My mind at 30 different things. I'm just trying to swimmer over here.
While we're using that, I just want to say the hurricanes, it could shift too. So it's also contributing to my nervousness.
It is headed to Sarasota as we record this. So you are right with that,
contributing,
Chris.
But I'm going to use that as an excuse.
That's fair enough. Andre Coleman, former coach on our staff. He's currently with the Washington Commanders in the NFL. His first coaching job was our tight ends coach under Eric Wolford when you were a senior in high school. And I remember him telling me his first ever recruit was Chris Elkins. And you could tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I think it was you who told me that was your only offer was Youngstown State. And that's, why you took it for sure. What was going through your head? Obviously, you went in the NFL, play with the Steelers, going in the Hall of Fame. So obviously a phenomenal football player. But what was going through your head prior to Andre Coleman offering you that? What did you think your NFL career was going to be? Did you foresee yourself playing and making it to the NFL at that point, or did you say, if I don't go anywhere, I'll never play another down that senior year of high school?
So first of all, shout out to Coach Coleman. He was always my favorite coach. We never had those moments on the field really, but just kind of off the field and just interactions with him. He was always my favorite coach. So I've loved following his career. I hope all is well with him. We don't really communicate much, but hope all is well. Yes, YSU was my first official offer. But I don't know if this is, if anyone ever is recruiting out there listening, but a couple of other schools that I was talking to at the time told me after the fact, like after I'd already committed, hey, by the way, we would have taken care of everything. And it's like, well, thanks, I guess. But yeah, I had a lot of PSAC schools, Slippery Rock, they were in contact with me a lot. Robert Morris was an option. I like them just because, growing up, I've always loved football, everything about it, college, NFL. That's how I spent all my weekends. So I wanted to be D1. And just that title alone made me interested in Robert Morris. I think I canceled a visit to Clarion to go on the YSU visit. And I really misremember this thinking back in the past, but I didn't get involved with YSU until the very end. And like my memory feels like I started talking to YSU and then 2 weeks later I was signed. Now I'm sure the timeline wasn't actually like that, but it all really happened fast and kind of at the end. In my head, I never, even as I was at the East-West All-Star game, talking to a bunch of scouts, I never thought I'm going to the NFL. It just kind of like, it just happened. And even being in that locker room, I'm going to talk about it in one of the later questions a little bit. It didn't really feel real, even being there. But my decision really came down to I had a better relationship with Slippery Rock. Who knows how true it was, but they told me, you're our number one target, offense and defense. It doesn't really matter. We just want you. And even in high school, I didn't really know if I was going to play offensive line or defensive line. I never really thought about that decision. It just kind of fell into place. I was really the guy that would do whatever you tell me to do as a coach. It's kind of the moniker. You want me to jump? I ask how high, but yeah, that's that story.
Well, first, for another time, Dan and I definitely remember your recruiting visit. It was absolutely legendary. But for those listeners know, Kyle Searle and Kurt Hess became close friends of mine because I coached the scout team offense, and their freshman year, we were, in practice in the huddle every single day. Chris Elkins skipped scout team, so I was not close with him. However, the way him and I became close was I'm from Tampa, so I had my Rays gear, Bucks gear, Lightning gear on in the stadium. And this kid from Pennsylvania would just be like, oh, the Rays won. And he would start naming players off the team like he was this huge fan. Come to find out, he's a fan of all Tampa sports. That's how him and I became very close because he was the only other person on the team that followed the Tampa Bay Rays. So that's how Chris and I came close. But Cyril.
Yeah, congrats, Elks. Big Heim ding, finally getting the recognition he deserves. Definitely excited to announce it live on the show. And your reaction was priceless and pretty much spot on for what we thought it was going to be. I did think that you were going to shed a tear. I did have the over on 3 tears shed, so my bad on that.
I'm still processing, so.
I figured just let it sink in. You're allowed to cry live on the show. We'll cut it and we'll put it on Instagram for everyone to see.
The lights are on. You got to have the game face.
Our offensive line was extremely dominant when under Wolf, and we had a great offense led by Kurt Hess, and you worked with Coach Carm and Wolf on a day-to-day basis. Wolf's specialty is offensive line. Just talk about working with Carm and Wolf on a day-to-day basis and being leaned on as an anchor of our offensive line from the get-go, from, like Kurt said, from your freshman year, and how you took that.
Yeah, so I'll kind of break it down into 2 parts. Again, kind of humble to a fault. I never really felt like I was that anchor or like I jumped the gun. getting into leadership a little bit too. I never really felt like I was that guy, just because I came in midway through the year as a freshman. At that point, I'm really just antsy to go, trying to get my feet under me. And then leading into my sophomore and junior year, the rest of the guys on the team were all, or on the offensive line, were all a year ahead of me. So, DJ Main, Mark Pratt, Lamar Mady, Radak, all those guys, I'm looking at them kind of as they're more of the veteran presence. And it's, why would it be me? It's not me. For both sophomore and junior years. And then leading into senior year, just kind of being in the moment rather than thinking about it. We did a couple of things to try and do stuff as a group, but I never really thought of myself as kind of, I'm the guy, this is what we need to do. So that's not a very good answer for that question and following and with leadership. But Coach Carmen, Coach Wolf, I was trying to think about it. And, with Wolf, it was, if he said anything, that's something that, you write down, you don't forget it. Just because the respect, you have for him coming from the SEC and how many guys he's put into the NFL. If he said something, you remembered it. And whether that was, because, I know I need to remember it, or because he's letting you know I need to remember it, you remembered it. And I just feel like it was probably a little harder for Carm having that extra layer of offensive line, just because that pressure on him to make sure that we're, doing everything right and living up to that standard. But he really wasn't with us, every single day in individuals. And the moments when he was with us, it was really, it's not a bright blue, sunshiny day. Something must be going on. And we were kind of getting back into that, you better be ready to work and do it right, do it light. So every single rep, you just got to go as hard as you can, make sure you're getting the technique right, and then get out of there so the next guy can go. With Carm, it was great. I loved, being a part of his unit and just getting to know him individually. Looking back, I probably couldn't rewrite the story any better, having that consistency all 4 years. He put everything out there, what the expectations should be, and made sure that in the moments, if anyone was kind of straying from that you got back in line. So yeah, no complaints at all.
Love it. That was definitely Wolf's MO, was like, you're going to do it until you do it right. And definitely listen to him when he's yelling at you, because it wasn't, a conversation. He was in your face, right? So I think he got in my face one time, and I didn't mess that play up again.
Those linebackers are on a different level. They're coming. Be ready for it.
All right, Alex, I got a couple things for you, man. First, congratulations. And they call me the Hall of Famer on here, and anytime you come on now, Sal's going to make sure everybody knows it. And a lot of my Hall of Fame status has to do with the offensive line that was in front of me. So I appreciate everything that you did while we were there, and nobody could deserves this more than you do. But with all your stats that I had mentioned before, and all American and all conference, I do want to let everybody know here on the show the stat that my mom loves the most, that you had a big part of, that I probably told you before. But the last 3 seasons that we played as an offense, I was sacked only single digit times all 3 years. So you're talking 35 games. And I think one year I was sacked 7 times, 8 times, and then maybe 9 times. That's not a lot of sacks. And you were a big part of that. And those kinds of things don't go into the stat book. But those play a big part in us being productive. And, I get a lot of stats, receivers get a lot of stats, running backs get a lot of stats. And Mitch did a great job last week, making sure he gave a shout out to his O-line too. So I think that's just what quarterbacks are going to do, hopefully for the rest of their life, which is they never get enough credit. You never get enough credit, but this is a well-deserving honor, man. So congratulations. And I think everybody on the show, sorry, my bad. I'll finish up. Everybody on the show knew it was going to happen at some point, and we're glad that we were able to kind of congratulate you and honor you live right here. Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, you're good. I was just joking around that sacks are a QB stat too. You guys definitely contribute, and it wasn't all that the O-line was good. You definitely contributed to avoiding sacks, and getting out of pressures too. So.
I'm happy to throw the ball away instead of take a hit. That is something that Shane taught me. So yeah, it was a tag team effort. They talked a little bit about Wolf and Coach Carm. We texted Coach Carm earlier today, let him know the news. So expect a text hopefully from him today or tomorrow. For those that don't know, Carmen Bracillo is with the New York Giants right now. Eric Wolford was just with Nick Saban in Alabama. He's back at UK right now. Here's what Coach Carm Bracillo said about you, Elkins, and your congratulation statement from an NFL coach, a guy that, you have a close relationship with, that you could probably call or text at any time. Chris Elkins is one of the best offensive linemen I've ever had the pleasure to coach at any level of football. He possesses so much grit and toughness, as evidenced by his dominating play at YSU, or by the fact that he never missed a game or practice in 4 years of playing time. He was a compassionate teammate who was unselfish and without an ego, and without a doubt, one of the best offensive linemen to ever have played at Youngstown State University. So big words coming from a high-profile coach who's been all over. He's been with the best coach in the NFL. High praise from him. Do you want to talk any more about Coach Carm? I feel like you kind of hit it a little bit, but.
Yeah, I really don't have much to say right now.
Okay.
Just hearing that message is kind of like, I just keep looking at Searle, and I'm just thinking that he's really trying to pull that over out of me. So yeah, no, I love Coach Carm. I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, my question real quick, you touched on it a little bit, but I was able to see it. Searle was able to see it. The coaches were able to see it. You really did develop in your leadership role, and as a captain, as a senior. Everybody kind of does, but we definitely were able to see you do it kind of in front of our eyes, because we were kind of there before you, and you were younger than us, so it was easy to kind of see that development. How does that development as a leader and as a captain your senior year help you transition into your career with the Steelers and in the NFL?
Yeah. So like I said, I kind of jumped the gun with this a little bit. I never really felt myself as kind of that captain or senior. I've always just been the kind of person that leads by example. And, maybe to a fault sometimes, getting on things like this and getting, nervous and not being very talkative, and kind of looking back in hindsight and wishing I would have said some more things in the moment, whether in practice or workouts, and just trying to get more out of everyone rather than more out of myself. But, as an individual, I feel like that kind of lead by example, make sure you're always doing the right thing, just help me as a player, as a person, to make sure that I'm always in the right situation, to make sure that I'm always prepared for opportunities, and to put myself in a position to succeed if I get opportunities. So.
No doubt. And you were always really good as a captain. I thought a leadership role when it came to conditioning, and you guys had to make your times as an offensive line. Do you want to talk a little bit about your strategy when you guys were running sprints over the summer during conditioning?
Now, there's plenty of stories we could tell, but one of the first things I thought of when thinking of, leadership and that lead by example was actually a conditioning in the Watts. I don't remember what day, what year, but we were doing cut 75s or cut 60s, I think. And more that, lead by example. There was a specific day where one of Searle's buddies on the D line wasn't having quite a good day. And that specific day, he just got the opportunity to be made an example of. And I remember, just busting my ass, working hard. And I like to think I was athletic as well. And so I was winning one of the reps of the cut 60s, cut 75s, and the whole team's standing there waiting. And Coach JB, he's standing there, and he sees that I'm working hard, and he calls me out for it. He says, "I see you, Elks. I see you working. Keep working." And just something about me is when you hear that, something clicks in your brain. Okay, it's not time to relax now. I'm gonna keep doing it, because he didn't call me out for one rep. He's gonna call me out, and he's gonna see it again and again and again. And we ended up doing how many ever reps in a row, and I ended up passing out at the end of it, but I made sure that I was going to be at the front of the line for those reps, because I knew people were watching me. So
Awesome, man. Great story.
Shout out JB.
Well, again, just for those of y'all just tuning in, first heard on the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast, Chris Elkins, now inducted into the Youngstown State Hall of Fame. Congrats to him. Big thank you to Youngstown State Athletic Department for allowing us the opportunity to make this announcement. First heard here by Chris's friends who were able to tell him the news. Very awesome. We were very excited about it when Kurt first told us that we were given the honor to tell you. But Chris is going to stick around, and he is going to help us transition to break down Indiana State and get you ready for South Dakota State. So let's transition, boys. All right, your Youngstown State Penguins beat Indiana State 21-14. Quick first shout out to Mets, who had 24-17, very close. Also shout out to Jason, who had 28-14. Just one more touchdown away, and we would have been there. However, Youngstown State does win at home, 21-14. Things start off great in the first quarter, where we have a 9-play drive that ends up with an Ethan Wright 2-yard touchdown. Penguins are up. Second quarter, we have a 8-yard pass to go up 14-0. And then Ethan Wright has another 2-yard run, make it 21-0. Halftime, things are looking great. Yet we go quiet, and Indiana State scores on a 34-yard pass and then scores on a 4-yard run, making it 21-14. Starting to panic. Indiana State, just to get the dramatics out of it, with 5 minutes left, Indiana State has the ball on their own 8-yard line, drives it all the way down to the YSU 12 on a 1st and 10 with 2 minutes left. So plenty of time, only 12 yards away. Defense flexes muscles, does what needed to do. Ball turned over, and the Penguins just kneeled to kill the clock to give Youngstown State the win, 21-14. Curdy, what are your thoughts on the offense and the game overall?
Yeah, offensively, it's kind of the same theme that it's been all year, which is inconsistent. There were a lot of bright spots early in the game. It looked like we had playmakers getting the ball, just like Mitch was talking about last week. We got to kind of find a way to limit those turnovers, which was kind of what we were saying. We had one interception that kind of turned the tide for us, it felt like, a little bit in that game. Indiana State in the first half defensively, they looked like an inferior opponent, right? We were up 21-0 in complete control. We had a lot of rhythm heading our way. And then, once we get into the second half, whether it was right before the second half or right in the beginning of the second half, we had 3 drives. And the first drive was 3 plays. We gained 1 yard. Next drive, 4 plays. We gained 3 yards. Next drive, 3 plays. We gained 5 yards. So we had 3 possessions and we gained not even 10 yards, maybe 10 yards. So we can't have those lulls, and those lulls put a lot of pressure on our defense because now our defense is on the field a lot. We're not giving them a chance to get a break. Indiana State found a rhythm there, and we were really never able to get it back. The one drive that we did get it back, I think early in the fourth quarter, we missed a field goal on. So just not great complementary football. We look like a good offense, but a great offense is going to be much more consistent. When you're inconsistent like we are, you can just say that we're good. We've kind of had the same theme throughout the season. Stats look okay. Like Bo was okay, 11 of 18, 180 yards, a touchdown and a pick. All 3 of our guys on the ground, we've talked about the 3-headed monster back there, gained 175 yards, which for a lot of teams in a Missouri Valley contest would be great. We probably gained the majority of those yards in the first half because we only had 1 good drive in the second half. So really 175, looking at it the way it is in context, is not good. Just overall very inconsistent. We did not help our defense out, which I know, Cyril, you're going to hit on that defense, but not good complementary football still.
Cyril, defense.
In the words of Dominic Toretto, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is winning. And we won the game. That is the most important stat of the weekend. With that being said, this game was not perfect, like Kurt said. I hope we don't look at this and I know we didn't look at this and say, okay, we've arrived. We're on pace to, get the second half of our season rolling, because I do not believe that's the case. There's still some things that need to be fixed here. Some more positives before I get into the negatives here is we did have a season high on TFLs and sacks. So, we did get after Indiana State a little bit, got some tackles behind the line of scrimmage, which is definitely a huge plus and forcing Indiana State to play behind the change. So negatives, Elijah Owens, the quarterback. We cannot stop the quarterback run to save our life, and that's not okay. I mean, we got to get that figured out. And he was the leading rusher for Indiana State. He had I just had the stats up here. 159 yards on the ground from the quarterback. He had 149 yards through the air. Not good enough. With the offense struggling in the beginning of the second half, that does put a little bit more pressure on the defense there. I don't feel like we came out with the necessary adjustments out of the half. I feel like we got worse. Obviously, the stats and the box score show that the second half was worse than the first half. It looked, going into halftime, you look like, wow, we're going to win. We're on pace to win 42-0, whatever, 42-7, whatever the case may be. So it's just not good enough from the defense as a whole. I don't know why we cannot contain quarterbacks and why they are ripping off huge runs. I know there was a play where the quarterback scrambled for, I think, like 13, 15 yards. The next play, he lost like 8 yards on a sack. But, still, the fact of the matter is he was able to rip off a 15-yard run. And, one of the keys of the game from Kurt last week was not to let Indiana State hang around, not let them gain confidence. And that's exactly what they had. And at the end of the game there, going in, I was holding my breath the whole last 3 minutes of the game, because I'm like, they're going to go in, they're going to score, and they're going for two. There's no doubt in my mind that if Indiana State got in the end zone at the end of the game, they were going to go for two to win the game, because they had all the momentum in the second half. And we can't allow teams to do that. And we got to figure that out. We got to be nastier on defense. We got to be disciplined. And I don't know if it's guys are out of position on the second level, if the quarterback gets out. I'm not sure, but that is a big glaring weakness this season is quarterback runs. And an athletic quarterback is traditionally hard to defend against, but it's not the first one we've seen. And, that was one of my keys of the game, was this guy can run and will run. And that's exactly what he did. So it was almost like, what they're going to do. You should have a better plan to prepare for that. I don't feel like that's what I saw.
Well, luckily, the quarterback we're going to see this week, it is not very good. Said nobody. Dan, what do you think about Indiana State?
Yeah, I mean, some of the positives, as we like to break it down week to week, is, we ran for almost 5 yards a pop. You guys know how I feel about running the football, so I love that. We have two really good running backs. I think it's evident that, Tyshawn and Ethan are really good. Tyshawn's balance, and Ethan kind of has that burst. It's they're really good. We, as I think everybody mentioned so far, we dominated a team we should have dominated for 30 minutes, and speak to the consistency Kurt talked about. But that turnover, it kind of like flipped the script a little bit. All of a sudden we gave them, kind of opened the door for them a little bit, and they took advantage of that. And that's just, I think, a work in progress with Bo. And that's just, it's just not there yet, but he made that one bad throw, and it did change some things around. But in the first half, he made some really nice throws. I mean, let's remember that too. I think I remember he threw from the opposite hash, like a comeback or an out route to Cyrus. And I mean, it was on the money. But those turnovers, we talk about it every week. I hear Coach Phillips talk about. We're not saying anything that, the staff talks about, but those turnovers are are killers. But one of my keys to the game last week was, could our guys, Hunter Allen or Avoidus, those guys get some sacks? And as Kyle mentioned, we did. Darn near ended the game a couple of times with some defensive pressure. So, it's just a work in progress, but we won the game. So thank goodness we're talking about a win here. But man, we're still going through those growing pains, and but there are some really good positives out there. But I think Kurt nailed it again with the inconsistency. That just can come back and haunt you. We got another Hall of Fame member on the show tonight, and he speaks to consistency, right? How many starts did you say, Kurt? How many in a row? And
no 38 at least. It's over 40 games played, though. So
yeah, I mean, it's incredible what Chris Elkins did, and when it comes to consistency. So, we just got to keep at it. But a win is a win. So that's all I got.
Well, Hall of Fame center Chris Elkins. We know you had the parlay going on the Missouri Valley in Youngstown State, won but did not cover, which screwed up your parlay. So I know you're not extremely happy, but what do you think about that Indiana State game?
No, it's all good. Like Searle said, the win is all that matters. My biggest takeaway from it is I feel like my word of the day is opportunity. So my biggest takeaway is the first half might not have been perfect, but you can't really ask for much else. But to open up the second half, you have the opportunity to kind of knock the wind out of the sails for the other team. And not only the first possession, but like Kurt said, to have 3 in a row where you just can't really put anything together. It allows them to creep back into the game. And then ultimately you don't get much going for the rest of the game and have to rely on the defense to hold it together. You just, in hindsight, you'd really want to put a drive together, maybe not even points, but put a drive together to open the half. And, some of that doubt starts to creep into the opponent's head that, it's going to be just like the first half. And then put that game away earlier. That's it. I don't know where I was going with that.
A couple comments made. Chad, love Tom Zach's game. Absolutely. And of course, Moss bringing out a old nickname of Kyle Searles, which is always great. He loved your quote. But
you could say it. It's our show, Sal.
Pipe.
Well,
Dick Searle.
Dick Searle.
Y'all ready to y'all ready to transition, put Indiana State behind us? Let's do it. Get into our picks from last week. Dan, you tied me, so we both get a point on that. We only had 2 games that we all had to split hairs with, and Dan and I picked those games. Going back, as I mentioned, Youngstown State won over Indiana State 21-14. They won but did not cover. Indiana State wins on the points. As I mentioned, shout out to Met, who was only 6 points off, and Jason, who was only 7 points off from hitting the score perfectly. South Dakota State at Murray State. South Dakota at Murray State. South Dakota wins huge, 59-0. North Dakota at North Dakota State. I believe this was the game where Searle took a 3-score alternate line, and North Dakota State did win and hit that 41-17.
No, I had South Dakota State.
South Dakota State at Northern Iowa. South Dakota State 41-3, and Illinois State at Southern Illinois 45-10. The Redbirds win and cover. Anyone, any comments on any of those? We're ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Let's transition into the Youngstown State Penguins on the road at number 1 defending national champion South Dakota State Jackrabbits. We are going to be in Brookings. It is going to be 72 degrees and partly sunny, and you could always catch the game on ESPN Plus or your Youngstown local station. Just some few notes on South Dakota State and how we fared against them. So far, we are poorly, not doing well in the series historically, as we are 4-16 overall. Last year, the Jackrabbits, as we all remember, won 34-0. But we did have that touchdown clearly thrown and clearly caught for a touchdown that was called back because of a review. very controversial. After that, the Jackrabbits ran away from it. But prior to that, just to throw some series notes at you, we have won in Brookings twice. The last time we beat the Jackrabbits was in 2017, was 19-7. The only two times we won in Brookings was in 2014. We beat them 30-27. And then before that, you have to go back to 1974. We won 35-21. So the series definitely not looking in our favor. Definitely an opportunity to turn it around. South Dakota State this season, they open at Oklahoma State, which everyone was skeptical of an upset. That did not happen. That was a loss, 44-20. That is their only loss in a couple years. Then they turned it around against Incarnate Word, won 45-24. Then Dan helped me with it. Is it Augustana, South Dakota. They won shockingly just 24-3. Southeast Louisiana 41-0, and then UNI, they went to UNI and blew them out 41-3. So this team is hot. They are very good. They are the defending national champions, ranked number 1. Kurt, how do we win this game? Break it down.
All right, well, key players to start with. I always try to find one at each level. Linebacker number 32, Adam Bach, 3-time team captain, Buck Buchanan finalist, all-conference, all-American, leading tackler of the season with 36 tackles. He's the heart and soul of that defense. Number 99, D lineman Dawson Raperda, 6'4", 245, 3.5 tackles for loss. He's got 1.5 sacks, very disruptive up front. And number 4, corner Stephen Errol, senior, 6 foot, 200 pounds, leads the team with 2 picks. They got good players at every level. What I thought was really interesting is I was kind of researching a little bit more on this team, and you guys have probably already found this out, but in the last 2 seasons in college football across the board, FBS or FCS, we just see transfers in and out. And right now, Youngstown State had that too, right? We had a ton of guys transfer out, ton of guys transfer in. South Dakota State last season to this season's roster, 2 guys. The year before that, 2023, from 22 to 23, 2 guys. And these are guys that are not bringing in to fill holes. These are guys that they're bringing in to add to the competition from training camp and season, all that. They're bringing in good players, and they're only bringing in 2 of them. This year, it was 2 offensive linemen. So your best player, Mark Gronowski, you're bringing in 2 huge monster transfers to come in and compete to protect this guy. So they have a very stable program over there. I see this game going one of 2 ways. And as a team right here of us podcast people, it's 2011 and it's 2012 for us. So in 2012, we had just beaten Pitt. We had just beaten UNI, and we were 4-0 going to the Fargo Dome with a matchup. It was number 1, North Dakota State, hadn't lost in 2 seasons. We were number 3, I think. We held with them for a quarter. I think it was maybe 14-10. We went down. We scored. I threw a pick for a 99-yard pick 6, still one of my least favorite plays in my career ever. The wheels fell off, right? Nothing went right. Offense was bad. Defense couldn't stop anybody. Special teams, we bad field position. And when you lose in the Fargo Dome and the wheels start falling off, it's hard to get back on, right? So I think we lost that game 45-10 maybe. I remember Coach Montgomery came in the locker room. He goes, boys, that's just a good old-fashioned A-whipping, right? Like, offensive coordinator comes in, your coach, and he says, listen, throw it away. It's done. We got our what's beat. 2011, the year before, North Dakota State had won the national title that year. We were 5-4 going into the Fargo Dome again. Had no business being on the field with them. But, we kind of stayed in the game for a quarter and a half. We get the ball back right before half ends. Jordan Thompson, as we run like a sprint out draw, takes it like 60 yards to the 1, and we score a touchdown before the end of the half, and we're up by like 7 or 10 points going into the second half. Now, all of a sudden, we believe like, hey, we can do this thing. We play a clean game, no turnovers. We take plays. We make plays when we have, like Elks was saying, opportunities to make those plays, and we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. defense got some good stops. I remember, I think his name was DJ McNorton, number 8, the running back for North Dakota State, wide open to the end zone. He split the hole and he fumbled the football. Do you guys remember that? He just fumbled the football in plain day. Nobody even hit him. We got a little bit of luck. So if we can take care of the football, if we have opportunities to make plays, we need to make those plays, and we're probably going to need a little bit of luck. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. So I can see this game going one of two ways. We've both been a part of those experiences because we won that game against number 1, 27-24 in the Fargo Dome, one of our biggest wins probably in our career. It's possible. We can do that. We're going to need to do a lot of things right. But if the wheels are falling off at South Dakota State, they will finish us off. So we better come ready to play all 3 phases of the game, including the coaching staff.
Real quick.
Well, Cyril, before I flip it over to you, just to get to what you and Moss are saying in the chat, and I think you confirmed it. Yes, it is Hobo Day at South Dakota State. That is their homecoming day. For those of you who have been to South Dakota State, you probably know what it is, because I feel like they always pick us to be Hobo Day. I was just reading some background on what it is, and it is very unexciting how they came up with Hobo Day. But I always wanted to know, just so the audience knows what Hobo Day is. It goes back to 1907 is when they tried to start as some sort of theme. It looks like they all decided they were going to wear their night shirts or pajamas to the homecoming parade and to the games. And the dean came out and said it was unladylike for women to be wearing that, so he canceled it. Then a student at South Dakota State wanted to bring something back, and he saw the University of Missouri tried Hobo Day and dressing like bums, and it did not pan out there, but he tried to bring it to South Dakota State. To his defense, it took off, and men start to grow their beard out and try to look like hobos, anticipation to homecoming. And the tradition lives on 100 plus years later. So interesting tradition. But Cyril, thoughts on the game?
So I had the Hobo Day history ready to roll. This is just
Did I just steal that from you?
You stole it from me. I had
continue. I just read the Wikipedia on it, and
my god, the Wikipedia.
That's like than I did.
Wikipedia is like CNN of information, Sal.
Hey, that got me through college. But go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah, the first Hobo Day was November 2nd, 1912. Shout out to my dad. That's his birthday. Not 1912, but November 2nd. Yes, we are always South Dakota State's Hobo Day because they don't respect us and they have no reason to respect us. Everyone buckle up, by the way. I call it like I see it. So
grind Cyril's gears. Let's go.
The students are going to be ruthless. The fans are going to be ruthless. Hobo Day is the largest one-day event in the state of South Dakota. Everyone's going to be ready to go. All the, alma mater and fans and alumni are coming in, and they expect their team, who is on fire right now, to put on a show. And they know that, and they want to do that. And, this team is looking for national championship number 3 in a row. They are not as good as the team last year. Now, let me just say, with that being said, they are still the number 1 team in the country, and they are, showing it. They are scoring 34 plus points per game and holding opponents. And this is including their game against Oklahoma State, these averages, and they're holding opponents to 15, under 15. They're a pretty balanced team. They're rushing for a little over 200 yards per game. They're passing for a little over 200 yards a game. Like you said, Sal, the quarterback, Mark Gronowski, is the 2023 Walter Payton Award winner. That is the FCS Offensive Player of the Year. It's the equivalent to the Heisman at our level that we talk about. And he's completing 62% of his throws. He's not perfect this year. He has thrown 5 interceptions. But he will, he is capable of scrambling and running downfield. And if, he sees an opportunity in a hole and we don't have disciplined linebackers protecting their areas of the field, he will get a first down with his legs. And, I'm going to harp on that the rest of the year until we prove that, like, no quarterback's going to run on us. Their main back is number 3, Amar Johnson. He's averaging a little over 83 yards per game. He is their 3rd leading receiver as well. So, when he's on the field, definitely keep an eye out for him. Their backup running back, Kirby Voorhees, he's a freshman. He was redshirted last year. He's a freshman. He exploded for 179 yards and 3 TDs against Southeastern Louisiana Blind Sisters of the Poor. But I think that he can be a weapon, and if this game gets out of control, we're probably going to see him get some plays in there as well. Griffin Wilde, a couple 100-yard receiving games early. The receivers, he spreads it out a little bit, nothing like too crazy. They don't have like a dominant receiver. I think they're a team that runs and runs and runs and sets up some play action and throws the ball downfield and keep portions of the game. I don't think they've been in a position where they have to throw the ball. So another guy that I want to mention, I don't think I've ever mentioned a tight end in a player to watch for. Their tight end, Grayton Gannon, he's a big tight end. He is their 4th leading receiver behind the running back there. So big weapon. If they see a mismatch on our linebacker or something, I could see him being a problem for us this week. And, I'm just going to take it back to 2023. Like I said, that Penguins team was set up for me with the best schedule to be conference champions or put up a fight for winning the conference. And, the only question mark was South Dakota State and what we would do against them. And then, we had them at home and we lost 34-0. And it's very apparent that this Penguins team is not as cohesive as last year's team. And we're not as consistent as last year's team. And we don't have the firepower to score like we did last year. And that is a little concerning to me going into this game on the road against this buzzsaw of a Jackrabbits defense or offense team. There's the buzzsaw of the Jackrabbits in general.
Yeah, all around. Quick shout out to Cole, local Tampa resident. He's much more inland than I am, but hope he's safe. He just thinks I'm nuts because I'm doing this show live. My whole entire neighborhood's evacuated. But I told him anything for the brand. Definitely here for Youngstown State football. Cop, what do you think about South Dakota State?
Well, first of all, Curdy got me all fired up there, man, bringing back those 2011 NDSU and so many things. It was
followed by the history of Hobo Day by these Jago.
That's I wanted to say next.
We're not talking about North Dakota State here, boys. We're talking about South Dakota State.
I know you're right, but Curdy got me fired up, man. Curdy's given a little bit of belief. It was like a speech. It was like a Friday night speech there.
Trying to get these boys fired up. We got 2 Hall of Famers on the pod.
Amen. And Hobo Day, they
shouldn't be listening to us anyways.
Yeah, well, you guys gave like the PG version of Hobo Day. Let me tell anybody who has not been out to Brookings, South Dakota on Hobo Day, it is absolutely unfiltered, uncensored. You have no idea, because the first time we went out,
fired up on Hobo Day.
Well, I'm telling you something. When we went out there in 2008 for a night game after we got beat by Ohio State, we got out there, and I mean, I had never seen anything like that. And the things that their fans said to our players, their students said to our players, I can't repeat. Sal's face said it all right there. It was anybody in Youngstown, Ohio, that if you should travel out for this game and you'll get an idea of how they feel about Youngstown State University. I'm calling it the way it is. They definitely line up Hobo Day for Youngstown State. call it the way it is. So, but I want a little trivia question. I got a little trivia question for you guys. The first trip out there in 2008, we played them. Who do you think their leading tackler was that day? Their head football
head coach.
coach, Jimmy Rogers.
Yeah.
So he was, so think about that with as the state of this program, their head coach was one of their best linebackers ever. I mean, that program embodies him. And so that guy was playing that night. I remember that guy was a machine. But so we've made 7 trips to Brookings since then. We've scored just under 17 points a game, and they've scored just under 27. That's the average, including the blowouts, including the close ones and the wins. So, I mean, at times that 10 points is a lot more than that, but there's been some times where the old adage, they are who we think they are. They're number 1, 2-time defending national champions for a reason. We are not going to throw for 300 yards against them. They're not going to allow that. Nor do I think we want to do that. I mean, you can't just be one-dimensional against this team. So my keys to the game, I just keep going back to it because it is what it is, and we got a new Hall of Famer on the show who will probably speak about it. We are going to go as far as in this game. We're going to go as far as our offensive line takes us. Whether we're running the ball or throwing the ball, we can't just they can't be just sacking the hell out of Bo, and we can't be getting stuffed up front. It's been our focal point all preseason into the year. Everyone talked about our offensive line. Well, here you go. Here's your chance. Though to be the man, you got to beat the man. So I'm looking at our offensive line, and then will our defensive line do what we did this week? We got to get some sacks. Those guys, Hunter Allen spoke about that in the press conference. I think after the game, he mentioned that he started hearing some communication from the back end of the defense, as loud as it's been all year. So he heard the safeties and the linebackers were starting to recognize some things. Now, to Kyle's point, we still gave up a bunch of rushing yards to a quarterback. I don't think this quarterback is that guy, though. He'll run. He'll do whatever he needs to do. But that's really the key to me. What will our offensive line be able to do against them? Because you're going to have to be able to be balanced to beat this team. And yes, maybe they haven't been tested yet to an extent, and no one plays perfect. So maybe we could, we got to force a turnover or two. End of story. We have got to force a turnover or two, and maybe get them in a little bit of a, behind the chains a little bit. So that's what it boils down to. But if it's hobo day, man, buckle up, because and those people are absolutely crazy ruthless and nasty. Absolutely, that's a good word. Ruthless.
Yeah,
so
ruthless. It's going to be nuts and probably sold out. But Hall of Famer Chris Elkins, what do you think about South Dakota State, brother?
Well, sorry, Sal and Searle. I'm going to talk about the Bison for a second. Kurt, that interception, I believe it was Marcus Williams.
God.
The loudest sports environment I've ever been in my life. That place was rocking. But
it was louder than Penn State when they returned that kickoff. I think that was the loudest.
No, there's no way. Anyways.
Whatever, dude.
Anyways.
It's Elkins' turn. Let him talk.
Anywho.
I just put this together. I was thinking about it a couple of weeks ago watching the show. How did we beat Pittsburgh? And I got a couple of stats right here right now. Not to compare the two, but we beat them by going 11 of 16 on third down. We had no turnovers. We gave up no sacks, and we held the ball for 35 minutes. At that point, if you're holding the ball for 35 minutes, I don't know the exact numbers, but the other team, you're only really going to have like 8 to 12 drives. So then that really just, getting a big play, getting a big third down stop, getting a big turnover almost doubles how important it is to the game when you hold the ball that long. And so similar to Indiana State, some of the things we were talking about, where to open up that second half, or you have an opportunity to kind of make a statement, or from the other perspective, as Indiana State, you have a chance to kind of keep in the game, even if just for another drive longer, to stick around and then, see what happens by the end of it. That's what it's going to take to beat these guys, because, they are the best. They've been the best for a couple of years now, and that didn't happen by accident.
Well, a few score predictions. You don't mind, sure. I'll just rattle them off real quick.
All right, you got him. You got him.
Go ahead.
Wolf has YSU winning 28-25.
Of course.
Wolf believes in this team each and every week. Demo 98. Let me just say this before I give Demo a score. I got to scroll up. The chat is absolutely on fire tonight. He said, Elkins is the GOAT, an honor to have battled toe-to-toe with him on a daily basis. So well-deserved. Congrats, 6-6.
Thank you.
So before that got lost in chat, wanted to give that. Demo has SDSU winning 41-10. Jason Crum has SDSU winning 28-7. Metz has SDSU winning 45-10.
Okay. Let's get into our picks. And as always, I will go first. Kurt, Dan, then Hall of Famer Chris Elkins, and then Kyle Stroh with the Peanut Gallery pick, as always. First game is Missouri State at Illinois State, 1 p.m. Illinois State is a -1.5 favorite. This is a tough one, boys. I'm going with Missouri State to go on the road and win money line.
Yeah, I'll take that same thing, Sal.
Give me Illinois State at home to take care of business.
I have Missouri State.
Oh, give me the Redbirds at home. Nothing to say about them.
As I did this script and I was looking at these spreads, we get into this later. This conference really is getting divided, if that makes sense. It's not very equal.
There's not four
there's
tiers.
A top tier, then
tiers.
there's a middle tier, and then there's a low tier.
Which is the next game you're going to tell us about.
You're exactly
The
right.
toilet bowl.
Yeah, I think, Kurt, did you call it the toilet bowl in the thread?
Cyril called it. I just pointed it out.
Okay.
He's better.
Yes.
He's better with naming things.
And let's be careful because one of them almost came down the field to beat us last week.
gee,
But
Mike
Murray
Grossman.
State is at Indiana State, 1 p.m. Lucky for us, Indiana State is favored -5.5. I think Indiana State's going to, I don't want to say beat the brakes off them because Indiana State doesn't have much of an offense, but they'll win by multiple touchdowns, yes.
Is Murray State going to bust to this game?
Ooh.
Are they in Kentucky? Are they going to?
No, Murphy's or
They're gonna
Tennessee.
walk.
They're in Tennessee.
Tennessee, right?
Tennessee. Yeah, they're in Tennessee.
I might bust it. I'll take Indiana State to win by a touchdown. They got some talent there at quarterback, or at least it looked like talent when they played against us.
Yeah, give me Indiana State. I think we gave them some belief, and maybe we turned their season around for them a little bit. So give me Indiana State.
Yeah, Murray State won this game last year. I think Indiana State looked tough against us, and I think they're going to get their revenge on that this year. Indiana State.
All right, battling for the poop sandwich trophy. I think Indiana State wins this at home.
Sandwich.
All consistent on Indiana State. North Dakota State is at Southern Illinois. North Dakota State is a 14.5 favorite. That is a 3 p.m. kickoff. I have the Bison, as always, winning and covering.
Bison will win and cover, but I needed a fact check here, guys. Murray State is in Kentucky, and it's only 4 hours from Terre Haute, Indiana.
What the hell am I been thinking? I thought they were in Tennessee. The hell?
That's
Yeah,
McNeese.
they're right on the border.
Yeah,
right on the border.
Is
Give me the
McNeese in
Bison.
Tennessee?
Wait, maybe their practice field half's in Kentucky, half's in Tennessee.
That's possible. That's
Man,
possible.
thanks for fact checking. I sound like a
Well,
total idiot now.
That's
Like a total old idiot.
I know the rules said we weren't allowed to fact check today, but
You have the
Yeah.
coaching fun facts, not the states.
Yeah.
Only I get fact checked on this show. All right, Kurt, come on.
Thanks, Joe.
Jesus.
Since we've been talking so much about the Bison tonight, sorry, Kyle, but yeah, give me NDSU to put a good old fashioned beat down on. They're getting ready for the Dakota Marker game.
Same. I got the Bison.
Give me my Bison by an alternate line, 20+ points, baby.
Whoa. Ooh.
he likes to spice it up.
I like Yeah, I like to add to my odds there.
Love
Well, Youngstown State is at South Dakota State, 3 p.m. As we all know, South Dakota State is a minus 20.5 favorite. Looking at the history of this, last year was actually the largest win of the series when they beat us by 34. So we are just a touchdown away from covering that spread last year. Stroh's point, they're just as good, and we're not as explosive as we've seen thus far. But I don't think we lose by more than 4 touchdowns. I have Youngstown State covering that spread, but winning, I would love it, but I'm not going to bet on it. That's for sure.
I think we'll lose by 28, 42-14. That's 28 if I do the math. So yeah, I'll give us the points there. We're gonna lose, but not by 28.5.
Yeah, I like that. I refuse to believe we're going to get beat by 4 touchdowns. So give me those points.
I would bet it's around that 42-10 or 42-14, but I'm going to take the Jacks with the points. I just feel like we aren't as good this year, at least by what was shown, and they're still rolling. So
Everyone's just got to buckle up for this game. You just got to buckle up. You just hunker down in your house like Sal, preparing for a hurricane, because I think we're in for a rough Saturday. I think Andy Ice is going to be our only points. I think we're going to score 6 points. South Dakota got us probably got 45 in them.
if not now, when?
If not us, who?
Who'd you go with? The Jacks covered?
Hell yeah, 45-6.
Okay.
Bro, you're watching in Columbus, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching in Columbus. We're gonna be drinking we're gonna crush that bottle of Russell's Reserve. I'm gonna
Can we put how many quarters before Searle makes me turn it off?
half.
1.5
quarter.
1.5 quarters. Are you guys taking
Under over
Uh,
halftime.
turn it off. I'm done
Iowa,
with this game.
and then flip it back on. All right, let's go back to Northern Iowa is at South Dakota, 3 p.m. South Dakota is a minus 17.5 favorite. As Cheryl did point out actually last week, Northern Iowa is down. They are not the same team, even though South Dakota stinks. I'm going to give South Dakota because it's at South Dakota. I think they'll cover that.
Yeah, I'll go with the same thing there.
Doesn't mean they're good.
Thanks, Sal, for sticking to your guns that South Dakota stinks. I mean, you're a man of your word. But I like South Dakota's game, but sometimes these are the games Northern Iowa comes out and plays like they're champs or something. They start turning it around in the second half of the year, but I can't stand them. So give me South Dakota. I mean, come on, South Dakota. They just got roped. Can you cover at home? But yeah, give me whatever they're the Yotes.
In the dome.
Yeah, I know. 2 dome teams.
Or the gymnasium. Go ahead. Hall of Famer.
I agree. Even last week, I went back and forth with Northern Iowa just because, they put together one of these type of games. But I'm still going to go with South Dakota this week.
Why are y'all giving Northern Iowa so much respect? Like, they're poop this year, and just we should own this year. Like, this is what we've been waiting for. Just own that they're bad. Own that South Dakota State or South Dakota is good. I don't know what they got to do. Do they got to beat Virginia Tech for you to say South Dakota is good, Sal? give me the Yotes by another. I want another 20. I want an alternate line. I want Yotes plus 20.
Ooh.
Yotes minus 20.
Yotes minus 20.
All right. We're doing one out of conference pick because we always love when the FCS is on regular ESPN. They're on ESPN2. Idaho is going to be a big Sky game. Idaho's at Montana State at 10:15 p.m. if you stay up late enough for it. Montana State is a minus 6.5 favorite. I'm going Montana State to win and cover.
Montana State has 100 more seats at their stadium than we do.
Ooh.
Give me the Vandals.
Oh, not so fast.
Not so fast.
Wow. That one, man, that totally got me there.
Give me
Okay,
the
well,
Vandals. They have 100 more seats at their stadium than us. 100.
well, I'm going to go with Montana State because former YSU coach Brian Wright was the OC there a while ago. So there's a Penguin connection everywhere. So give me Montana State to win and cover.
Completely relevant. Good point. Chris.
Idaho's tough, but I'm going to go with the Bobcats. Not me, but some people have them as the number 1 team in the country this year.
Ooh.
Bold.
All right. Speaking of Brian Wright in Northern Arizona, Idaho just beat him 23 to 17. Idaho lost to Oregon 24 to 14, relatively close for playing a team like Oregon. With that being said, the last time we saw Montana, they lost in overtime on a blocked extra point to North Dakota State.
The Bison.
And
here we go talking about the Bison again.
Give me Montana. Minus 10. I want minus 10 on them. Your line sucks, Sal.
We know this is Montana State
right?
we're talking about.
I said Montana State. Give me the Montana school.
All right.
Then Joe Montana. Well, before we transition, since Cyril had to bring up Virginia Tech, we have to go to him real quick for the Vanderbilt tracker. How is Vanderbilt's season going? Are they doing anything? Was I full of crap when I said they were going to be pretty good this year?
The Vandy tracker. We got the Vandy tracker. Sal said at the beginning of the season they're going to be set up for a great season. All right. What do they do after they beat Virginia Tech? They play the Blind Sisters of the Poor at Alcorn State, win 55-0. Then they lose to Georgia State, who is barely Division I, and then lose to Missouri. Now, if you guys follow college football,
Double overtime, Missouri.
Oh, who cares? They lost. If you guys follow football at all, you know they royally upset Alabama, the newest number 1 team in the country. Vanderbilt has never had a win against a top 5 team until this past weekend. With that being said, their season is over and no more wins for them.
But tip my hat again to Dan, who said Jerry Kill's the man. And I said after that Virginia Tech game, because I saw Jerry Kill on that sideline, I knew it would be a special season for Vanderbilt. So congrats to those guys. That's pretty awesome. But let's transition, boys. Kurt, Cyril, YouTube, or IG, anything left to say on any of those?
All good, man. Congratulations, Chris Elkins. Newest football Hall of Famer.
Any shout-outs to anybody?
You know, I was going to do some NFL shout-outs, but we got they're a long season. Just to go back, the shout-out tonight is to the guy on the screen, the newest Hall of Fame member, Chris Elkins. I think this is really cool and an honor that we got to do this. So like you said, thanks to the athletic department. But to be able to tell him congrats like this and announce this is incredible. And a shout out to Andre Coleman, Carmen Brasillo, Eric Wolford, who all recruited Chris Elkins as a young guy. His recruiting trip is a legendary story. That's going to happen on Podcasts After Dark. You can subscribe for $24.95 a month. Kyle is collecting the fee on that. We don't need Light and Oil to sponsor that. Thanks to them for everything, but it's like NC-17 Podcast After Dark. So, but it's $24.95 a month. Subscriptions start effectively at 9:18 Eastern Time PM tonight. But seriously, congrats, Chris, man. We love you, and just a tremendous honor that we could do this on the show tonight.
Really quick from YouTube, the chat has absolutely been lit tonight. McNeese is in Louisiana, so thanks, Joe. I thought they were in Tennessee. I don't know. With that being said, I think we've made it, boys. We got a South Dakota State Jackrabbit in our chat, having a good time with us tonight. So, Chad, drop us a line. Let us know how you found out about our show. But just been a fun night in the chat, and just good vibes all around.
Thank you. Hall of Famer Chris Elkins, any words for the fans or to Youngstown State as all Penguins are tuned in?
Yeah, I would just say thank you again to you guys. You were all a part of that. It's pretty crazy to, kind of see a mural and in the moment, the strokes, the individual days and seasons that go by, you don't really think anything of it, but kind of looking back on that now, it's crazy to see what that became. So thank you guys. I love you, Youngstown Penguins, everybody. Appreciate it.
We love you, brother, and we will definitely be there in February to hear your speech. Definitely have us pre-read it and make sure it's longer than one paragraph, please.
It won't be better than
anything else from anyone before we wrap things up, though?
Yeah, I just received 3 texts asking for seriously where they can subscribe to Podcast After Dark. So we got to talk about this. I got 3 subscribers already saying, where do we? Is it what's the Venmo?
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be a lot of money. I mean, what happens in Podcast After Dark stays in Podcast After Dark. We know the rules.
You can write a book and make a lot of money off Podcast After Dark.
Okay, so $24.95 was too cheap. We got to bump that up. Okay,
I think it's like
no,
$99.95.
That's a unique live show at the MVR.
Oh yeah, there we go. In the cigar room.
I wanted to do a live show for Indiana State, but no one wants to come into town. So,
but to what Cyril is saying and to what Chris is saying, we are looking at doing live shows on campus as we speak. So probably season 3, we will be on campus doing some almost college game day-esque live shows, which would be awesome. But anything else? Are we ready to wrap it up? Let's wrap it up. Again, congratulations to the newest Hall of Famer, Chris Elkins. Awesome. He was on the show and awesome. We were able to announce it. Again, the Youngstown State Penguins are at South Dakota State this weekend, 3 p.m. On ESPN+. Please tune in this Saturday. But you can always follow us on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast, and we will be back on YouTube Live, back to our normal slot on Wednesday at 7:30. Please give us a subscribe, a like. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Give us a 5-star review, as always, and get any questions you need to into our Instagram page. But as always, from Tampa, Florida, I'm Sal Guardo. That's Kyle Searle. That's Hall of Famer Kurt Hess and Hall of Famer Chris Elkins and Dan Kopp. And as always, go Penguins.